Last time on Blurring the Lines of Fantasy and Reality, you saw this altercation took place between Ross and Melvin. Now find out what led up to this and why it happened. Find out this and much, much more on... Here with Ross, our superstar, who also plays the character of JJ Bounty in Millenium Pro.
Yes, sir.
Just want to thank you so much for participating in Chapter 2 of Blurring the Lines of Fantasy and Reality.
Thank you for having me here, David.
Thank you for participating. I'm honored to have you on here, as you're a man of many words, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. This is uncensored, okay. No holds barred. Feel freely, say whatever you want. There's no censorship here.
Oh, don't worry about that. No, I don't like censorship. I don't like censorship either.
All right, I think this is going to go really good. All right, let's get off for the first question here. How did you get involved in M-Pro?
Oh boy, that's a long question, or a long answer actually. Well, it all goes back many, many years. I knew a guy named Pat Wright, who was a friend of a friend, who used to hitch rides with me to shows. And we'll get to Pat Wright, I guess, eventually in our interview. But at the time, I would take him to shows, and he was talking about this thing called fantasy wrestling. And, he was involved in it and a bunch of other guys, and it sounded interesting. And I went to an all-star wrestling show, and I saw this guy named Dave Awesome. And Dave Awesome came up to me and said, "Hey, I run this company called Down with Wrestling. And you know what? It's a bunch of guys, and we do everything that the real wrestlers do, but the physical stuff, we don't really fight." I said, "Oh, okay, that's great. Everybody can do their own thing. If you want to dress up as a furry and go to a furry convention with a bunch of other adults, that's fine. Do your own thing. But I have no problem with it." But so Dave Awesome's talking to me, and he's saying, "Oh, you should join this group, All-Star Down with Wrestling." And so I said, "Okay, what do you do?" And he goes, and the next thing he said was, "You gotta buy this t-shirt, this hat, this scarf, this sticker, these pictures. You can buy all this stuff." I said, "Are you connected to All-Star Wrestling?" He was like, "No, we do our own thing." And I go, "I think I've heard of you before, Dave Awesome. Weren't you part of that wrestling group down in Oregon with Josh James?" And Dave Awesome said, "No, sir. We have a bounty hunter chasing Josh James right now down in Oregon because he owes me lots of money for my merch." I'm thinking, all this talk about money and merchandise, and these guys don't really do a fantasy. Like, what is this all about? And I still sided with okay, they're just getting off doing their own thing. That's okay. And so. This went on, and I joined Down with Wrestling a bit to see what it was all about, and I found that, it was a lot about Dave Awesome controlling everything, and it didn't really seem about sharing the love of wrestling. It was all about making a buck, and that's all they wanted to do, is like sell merchandise and get money from fans. And if you were a casual fan walking into a show and you saw these guys, you'd be convinced that they were part of something. But really, it was all about Dave Awesome and his multitude of characters, and nothing really to do with anyone else. All right, fine, that's good. I took part for a while, and I kept getting booted out of the group and stuff because I would call them on their BS. And eventually, I got to the point where it was getting really frustrating. I guess Ewan was part of Down with Wrestling too, and he was chosen to be guest GM for a month or something like that. Well, you know, Dave Austin, whatever he could shovel off to someone else, he was definitely going to jump on that. And so Ewan was the GM for a month, and I think things were really crazy at the time. And I finally said to Ewan, you know, this nonsense has to stop. Why don't you take the good stuff from Down With Wrestling, the fact that fans can get together and shoot promos and stuff like that, and maybe you think of making your own idea, like your own fantasy wrestling league, so you could compete with Dave Awesome. Maybe get Dave Awesome off his ass too, and actually, you know, put some effort into something like the Monday Night Wars. And so Ewan decided to put together what came to be Millenium Pro. That was a couple years ago, and I was one of the first people to join, and that's where it all came from.
Well, a few years ago, I got a message, you know, from Dave Awesome asking me to join DWW, and like, well, what's this? And I just happened to click on it, and I go, this looks like a bunch of nonsense. This is something I need to be a part of. So I joined it, and ever since then, I've just been kind of in the background, you know, watching, and then things started picking up more steam. Ross and Mike came over, and Jordana and Melvin, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty entertaining stuff. And I would just, every day, I would just be watching. And then I would just start commenting on things, and I don't know, it just became a phenomenon. It blew up. DWW became a huge thing. Empro then was born from DWW because it became so popular, so I naturally moved over to Empro and from to DWW. That's basically how it became a part of it all. It's almost like an addiction being on these two sites. You got Ogre Knodler, or Knodler. Is the K silent? I don't know. You know, he's on there every day. How can I not see what Ogre Knodler is up to? You gotta be on there. This is the place to be. It's a destination station, DWW and Millenium Pro.
I got involved with them Pro because I was also involved, and still am involved, with another fantasy group. And once Ewan started M Pro, I decided to hook up. I've been in and out, off and on for the last, since it started. But it was, sometimes it got fun, it got too much sometimes, and need to step back, take a break. But hey, I'm loving it.
I got involved in Millenium Pro through Melvin and David and Ewan. They told me about it. Ewan said that he was going to start his own organization, and we all talked about it, and that's how I got in.
Millennium Pro is filled with a lot of characters, different gimmicks. Here, generally, the limit here is supposed to be 3 characters per person.
Right.
With you, awfully, you're mini characters in here.
Well, that's for like wrestlers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Currently, right now, how many current active gimmicks do you have on Millennium Pro?
Me, 6. Yeah.
Okay, and these characters, what's the backstory in them? Like, were they based on, say, a TV character, a movie character, maybe a person or persons you came across in life, or are they kind of like an extension of yourself? Like, if it's, say, it's kind of like some of these characters or traits are kind of maybe someone on the inside of you, but maybe this could be the best way for you to express it, doing it through a wrestling character, and then you feel more comfortable maybe doing it that way to express yourself, or is it just based off other people or maybe something you saw on TV?
Well, the watcher gimmick, I've always felt if I was to be an actual wrestler, not necessarily a heel per se, but somebody, kind of, intimidating, dress in black sort of thing. The Watcher, though, although he is a heel in the movie, obviously, came from Keanu Reeves' movie, The Watcher. I don't know if anyone ever saw that, but yeah, kind of like a dark figure, sort of watches people leave. How much of suckers you guys are here in Millennium Pro. And the Watcher, a real talent, is not buying into it. Oh, Watcher's here to Debbie down this whole thing. No, I'm here to give everybody a reality check. You think, folks, these guest appearances from Raws actually improve this group? Well, look, it's Casey Spinelli. Well, look, it's Gillberg. Okay. Are they joining the roster and becoming part of the group? Is Gillberg going to actually be in the men's division? Nope. Is Casey Spinelli going to be a part of the women's division? Nope. What it is the cheap pop that Vince McMahon does. And you talent in Millennium Pro and you fans are being suckered into it. Yeah, I kind of wanted that kind of a gimmick for him. Bobby Beach that I do, I always thought like it'd be kind of funny. You normally see Beach Boys and they're kind of like, the long blonde hair and surfer boys and, riding the waves sort of thing. I thought it'd be funny to do a take on it since I'm, a larger fellow, to do like a big kahuna kind of guy, right? Wearing the big Hawaiian shirts and all that. Where am I right now? I'm at the beach. Oh, you better believe it. That's right. Near the trees right now. Water just out the way. Oh, yes. I am excited. I might even go in. Ooh, too cold. But things are good with Bobby Beach. So that's where Bobby Beach came from, big, fun-loving beach boy and stuff like that. Johnny Dean, I was a big fan of Travolta in the Grease movie, and I also liked The Outsiders with Patrick Swayze and all that, and Tom Cruise and all that, and I thought, hey, let's, maybe let's add a little Grease boy kind of gimmick too. So it's Johnny Dean. Yes. Oh yes. Johnny Dean. Megan and that one kind of took off. And I thought, hey, it would be kind of cool if I had a second person to do this gimmick with. And Timmy, who was originally Beach Babe Dozer, she jumped on board and became Jamie Dean with me. So it's almost kind of like Grease, John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John sort of thing. But we kind of play it off a little more of the Outsiders type of gimmick. So yeah, it's pretty good. I also have Alcoholic. What's up there, Millennium Pro? It's your broadcaster, Alcoholic here. That's right, Alcoholic. You know me. You love me. Who's the broadcaster guy? I've always loved broadcasting as a kid. I had a radio show that I did up at SFU in Burnaby for a while, which was a variety rock show, like mix of rock from various countries. And I've always loved the concept of trying to make Millennium Pro kind of feel as realistic as possible, right? Even though it's a fantasy league. So I invented this commentator guy, Alcoholic, to kind of set up the shows and get everybody introed. And I'd do a thing on Fridays where I'd have an intro, but I'd put in a crowd soundbite in the back, so it feels like, there's actually a crowd there and everybody's going crazy. And Alcoholic, actually, it's a joke off The Simpsons, where Bart, of course, he makes his funny prank calls to Moe at Moe's Tavern. And one of them he did was, is Al there? Last name Kaholic? And then Moe, of course, is all playing along and stuff and doesn't realize what's actually happening. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. Snackmaster is another one. We do a lot of Facebook Lives on Millennium Pro. We actually should be doing more, but He was just a guy that I just a stupid little thing, you know. Hey, why not have a guy called the Snack Master doing these live chats, and he'd always be having snacks, you know, like Doritos or whatever. Well, all right. Good evening, everybody. Millenium Pro is here with you once again. We are on a Facebook Live tonight. I'm your man, the Snack Master. That's right, I'm your Facebook guy, your journalist. Welcome to it. Another Facebook Live here, Millenium Pro. Well, and then of course you got GM Ewan. So there you go.
Well, it's simply the fact that the first time I met Dave Awesome, he said that there was a bounty hunter chasing Josh James down in Oregon. So I decided I was going to make a character with the name JJ Bounty. JJ stands for Josh James, and Bounty, of course, is the bounty on his head. So it was a complete mockery of the stuff that I had learned from Down with Wrestling, and I thought that was quite satirical. I love Mad Magazine and stuff, so I always look at puns and double entendres, things like that. And so JJ Bounty's character was a character, and one of the things that's in all fantasy wrestling groups is the fact that people get very easily offended. They talk about being these big badass wrestlers in the fantasy world, and they're gonna pound this guy and beat this guy up, but a lot of times they get their feelings hurt. And I thought, hey, you know what, I'll make JJ Bounty this sort of advocate for hurt feelings. But, you know, what happens a lot of the time is JJ Bounty ends up hurting feelings even more, inadvertently, of course. And I based the character on a bunch of Hollywood movies. Cape Fear comes to mind. Like, I know Robert De Niro's character in Cape Fear was used in the WWF in the 90s. There was some guy, do you know who I'm talking about? Wore a Hawaiian shirt and stuff.
Really Mercy.
Yeah, but more like Robert Mitchum and Gregory Peck, kind of southern drawl. And again, or you know, even that giant rooster from Warner Brothers, I try to talk like him a little bit, you know? And I thought that would be effective and sort of really jarring for a lot of people to see this guy going on about things and trying to protect your feelings, but it usually ends up worse than it starts.
Parker, you know, I tried to entertain the masses of Millenium Pro. Like, I never had a real desire to create a character there. I was there to shake things up, to comment on things, you know, to like ask Ogre Canolder why he's still on the couch, you know, get up. Ogre Canolder, I'm not sure how you say it, sorry. But yeah, I'm like, can this guy stand up? I don't know. Like, I have to comment on that. So no, my character is more like, I didn't have one. I'm like, I'm just going to comment on what I see here. And what I see is pretty hilarious stuff. You know, Orin Canodler is canceling a party for Melvin. I'm going to comment on that a few hundred times. Yeah, that's basically what I was, just a worker. That's how you'd say it, probably. Then Ewan made me vice president eventually. I haven't done one thing with that, but I'm still vice president. Yeah, it just goes how it goes. I post nonsense on it. Just trying to stir the pot. I'm the pot stirrer. That's what I've been called at ASW. I'm just stirring the pot.
The Canadian Patriot Pat Riot. I'll tell you, I was actually at an all-star wrestling show in Squamish. Maybe 6-7 years ago now. And I was in talking with Travis Sionis. Bolt Vegas, for some people who might recognize him under that name better. And I was talking to him about a character for myself. He said, some of the best characters are just amped up versions of who you really are. So I thought about it for a month or two after that. And I thought, okay, well, I happen to love this country and I love the military. All the soldier tributes you see on YouTube and things like that. How they're coming home to their families and whatnot. I said, okay, well, they're patriots. All right, the Canadian Patriot. That part works. Now, can I come up with something even better? So I started looking around at just ordinary compound words. Just out of the blue one day, and I thought, wait, Patriot split it apart. Yeah, the Canadian Patriot, Pat Riot. And from then, the character was born. It's who I am inside, how I feel about my love for the country of Canada, and who I am. It's just me exponentially empowered, so to speak. Maybe if you wanted to look at it, take the dial and crank it up to 100. Pat Riot is that person. Me, I'm just a normal guy who happens to love his country.
I used to be known as Super Soul because if I ever was an actual real wrestler, that would have been my character name, because I love helping people and I love being there for people. So I thought that was a good name for me. Then it turned into Soulless, and here we are.
How do you come up like with your promos? Like, are they just right off the top of your head, or do you script them out a little bit? How do you like figure out your promos? Like, do you just, it's like, oh, I got an idea, you just turn the camera on and you just kind of...
It's usually based off ideas. It depends also who my opponent would be in the match and what they would say, and then I'd kind of go from there. But sometimes I kind of just figure, hey, this might be a good idea, and then just go with it. Sometimes I just wing it and whatever. But usually there's thought put through on what I'm going to say.
Well, I commute about 3 hours a day, so I do my promos over and over and over in my head. I script it out in my head before, and then suddenly I'll just drop my. I'll find a good place to do it. I'll put on my JJ Bounty hat, and put on my bow tie, and then I'll just start shooting it. You just don't know when that moment is going to come along. You know, always be ready. Just put my camera. I always have like lots of little standees and stuff for my camera. You know, as you know, I don't believe in sitting on your couch without a shirt. I mean, I know lots of wrestlers don't wear shirts, but you know, a lot of these guys that shoot promos are just so damn lazy they don't want to put a shirt on. That's the only reason why they don't have a shirt. And I thought, you know, we could do so much more with promos. We can really make them interesting. We can have stories. I don't want to just sit there as JJ Bounty and say, I'm going to beat you up. You're done. I'm going to take that belt back. Like, there's no, what's the rationale or what's the reason why? I always thought, you know, I got to give JJ Bounty real reasons why we're going to, you know, propel the story forward.
I cut a promo. I look at the situations involving a match, so to speak, the promo matches. And I look at it like it's going to be, okay, it's a street fight. Okay, do I really hate my opponent? Is it someone who just turned on me, or vice versa? Is it anything like that? Okay. I think about if my opponent has cut a promo on me, I use some of what they say right back against them. I write down what I think are 5 key points in the promo that I want to talk about. Then I practice it 2 or 3 times, and then make the final cut using those 2 to 3, 5 up to 5 particular points in the promo towards the actual finished product. And I usually try to keep the promos within 2 to 3 minutes in length. Anything longer seems more like a documentary to me.
Promos, definitely promos. Like, the guys make it look so easy, but it's so tough to think of what to say and how and when to say it. And the first one is so terrifying. But once you get used to it, they're lots of fun to do.
We all know that Millenium Pro came about obviously with the, I guess, some of the drama, so to speak, coming from another on again, off again fantasy promotion, Down With Wrestling. Some people may say, oh, Millenium Pro is just a ripoff of it, and maybe DWW was the originators. How would you address, like, do you think it is a ripoff of DWW, or is it just something different?
It's an alternative to DWW. People, I could see when I was on DWW there, people were wanting more of an edgier product. They felt it was too, light, and there was a lot of, with respect to DWW, I know that one of the members is very big on the old school type of wrestling and stuff like that. But I felt it was kind of like music, people were listening, not saying DWW is this, but a lot of people maybe were thinking DWW was kind of like, classic rock sort of thing, and then all of a sudden, not there's anything wrong with classic rock, but kind of the old stuff, and then all of a sudden here's Empro, Nirvana, bam, if I can quote Paul Heyman, and here comes Metallica, along, and there you go. So even though Metallica was started early too, but that kind of idea where we're more kind of an edgier brand sort of thing. But no, it's not a ripoff. It's an alternative for people. There's a lot of these e-feds going on all over the world, so it's simply an alternative.
What? A blatant ripoff? No. Well, Dave Awesome thinks that Down With Wrestling was the very first fantasy wrestling league in the entire universe. However, Josh James was running something like this 6-7 years ago, and after I got a whiff of what fantasy wrestling was, I found all these different groups all over the world that do the same thing, basically. They shoot promos, and they judge their matches based on promos and stuff. Ewan's M-Pro is a lot different, though. Ewan does t-shirts and stuff, but a lot of times they're very creative, and even the wrestlers will want to buy a t-shirt. Like, I'm a Todd Quality guy or something like that. I have no problem with that if it's actually interesting enough that people will approach you and say, I'd like to buy that t-shirt you came up with. That's really cool. Or, once you go Scarlet Black, you never go back. Kind of, stuff like that. That's fine. But when you approach fans and wrestlers selling t-shirts like Down With Wrestling does and saying, we're legit guys, we're real wrestlers, I know people all over North America, real wrestlers, you buy my stuff and enter the fantasy world of Down With Wrestling. And when you get into Down With Wrestling, you find out it's just a sham, and really it's one person just stoking his massive ego all the time. It's so really what Ewan has done, he's taken all the good elements of that, or he's mined the stuff that could possibly be good and made it into a social get-together experience with really good belts, and I think he does an awesome job every month, even though I ride his ass a lot of the time.
That's a good question. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit slow this morning. I'm just still a bit shaken up, just days ago, Nodler, however you say his name, he just banned me from his party. For Melbourne, a going away party for Melbourne, not even welcome there. And so my mind's not in the game right now. I just wish I was able to go to that party. He turned down Mike, turned down Ross, turned down everyone. I just wish that didn't happen. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that part. So if I'm not really answering well, I'm really shaken up by that party. I just wish I was invited. It's a real shame. But back to the question, is Millenium Pro a ripoff of DWW? The answer is no. Millenium Pro was it's shot out of the gates. DWW was slumping. They always put the handcuffs on any creativity. Anytime they got a little bit of success, they have to shut it down. Dave Awesome doesn't like success. He's a little bit delusional. Melvin Berry doesn't like success. Anytime it gets a little exciting, no, who can't say that here. You can't post that here. And then that's why Ewan quit. That's why he left, and he created Millenium Pro, and everyone went over to Millenium Pro. And you saw some of the best content ever on Millenium Pro. You saw Rich Prick. You saw Ross R. Superstar. It was just endless promo material. Millenium Pro became a phenomenon out of DWW, and they just started slumping in the ratings, and they've been slumping ever since. But is it a ripoff? No, it's a whole new thing. It's more popular. There's freedom. You do whatever you want in Millenium Pro. If it was a ripoff of DWW, it would be dead right now, just like DWW. It's not. It's its own thing, and it's huge.
No, there's a difference. There's a difference. One is, in Down with Wrestling, we tend to take it a little bit more on the serious side of the business. We enjoy the competitive nature, but we prefer to keep the serious stuff on DWW. You know, wrestlers who pass away from wherever they are, whatever promotion, even if they're in the 60s, 70s, indie territories.
Definitely not. M-Pro is its own separate entity, its own separate everything.
Exactly how did this whole feud between them begin?
I think it was related to a, from what I know, I could be dead wrong, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but there was a thing on Down with Wrestling where the topic of drugs started to be talked about, and it was related to Melvin Murray. But what it was dealing with his character, Pat Riot, being that he was, from what I know, this is my opinion, from him being billed as from Pemberton, BC. Well, we all know that there's a big-time music festival that usually happens up there called the Pemberton Music Festival. When that topic of conversation started coming up, Melvin had taken quite offense to it, as apparently there were some issues with him in the past about it. I'm not sure exactly what, but situations like that. And it was noticed that the conversation of drugs had continued and continued as people just felt, they had the right to talk about it and stuff like that. And then what I noticed is that Melvin and Ross started to have quite a bunch of issues between each other because of it. And then it spilled onto other things, other type of issues. And then there was also the topic of conversation that Melvin has claimed to be a legit professional wrestler, and Ross has been in the belief that that's not the case. And there's been arguments issues back and forth about that. I'm not to speak on it, but I think that's where it stemmed from.
What started it was, let me think here. It's been so long I don't even remember what started it. I'm sure one said something to the other that pissed the other off, and then just kept getting angrier and angrier till we are where we are now. And Melvin did try to resolve it at one point, but that fell apart, so no, I don't think the feud will ever end. And if it does, it won't be anytime soon, if at all, ever.
Honestly, I can't remember how this thing all started. I remember there was going to be a match between the Canadian Patriot, Pat Riot, and Ross R. Superstar, I believe. I'm not sure which one of his characters, but it was going to be in a shower. I'm like, whoa, what the hell, a shower match? Or something along those lines, and Melvin went ballistic, and he's like, I'm not wrestling in a shower. Some bad things happened to me in the shower when I was young. I'm not going to go there, That's his business, what happens in his showers. But I remember that was a turning point where Melvin just snapped. And like, Ross was enemy number one. No matter what Ross did, I hate you, Ross. I hate this. You could never get them to talk to each other. I believe he snubbed him at the awards night at M-Pro because of that. Like, I remember he walked right past him, boom, shoved him out of the way, and I heard that he slammed the wall. I heard that he punched the wall. There's evidence of that at that pub at Jolly Max. So I don't know how this all started. I know that was one of the main points, and I know it carried over into DWW, and the hatred ran deep between these two. Will it ever end? I don't think so. I think this is going to be one of those lifelong feuds. It's like the Blanchards and the Rhodes. They're going to hate each other for life, and this is Renaud and Barry. It's for life. I think the hatred.
I need another beer for that one. Okay, so as I was telling you earlier about Down with Wrestling and all that, I'm fine with whatever you want to do. If you wherever you want to go, that's fine with fantasy wrestling. But when you start exploiting fans who don't know what fantasy wrestling is and taking their money, I think it's very important that every penny we bring to a wrestling show that we aren't spending on a ticket goes to a wrestler. Like the guy who's sitting there at the table with his 8x10s and he's just driven 500 miles to be at this show and he needs gas money to get back. You should be putting your money into that and not into some guy who rambles around with a briefcase full, or it's a luggage, wheeled luggage full of t-shirts and stuff, and telling everybody that he's a real wrestler and that he's part of a real wrestling federation. That's deception. That's fraud. So I had a real problem with that, and it sort of really irked me because it just went on and on. And you know, Pat Wright's got an enabler. It's Dave Awesome. Dave Awesome is in the same delusional mindset as Pat Wright. Dave Awesome believes that he's got wrestling connections all over the world. He texts Rip Rogers whenever he needs some help with his group because they're getting out of control. Rip Rogers, help me! I mean, I really have a problem with that. And I call out Melvin a lot. Oops, I said his real name. Pat Wright a lot. When he does these things, and he always has... Well, he doesn't really have answers. He just gets really freaking angry. He gets angry and he shoots his mouth off.
I've had enough of this garbage. You people have better freaking learn.
He breaks more rules than we broke, you know, in any part of our feud. And he just doesn't accept the fact that he's not a wrestler. He's not a wrestler. Just because you wrestle in a barn up in Pemberton doesn't make you a wrestler, doesn't give you the right to start telling fans that you're a wrestler and taking their money. When I went to see Down with Wrestling at their table at the All-Star Wrestling show, and some kids were going up and buying t-shirts, like, that's really offensive. I support local wrestling endlessly, and I think every penny that we have, any extra penny, needs to go to the wrestlers who bust their asses and put their lives on the line every time just for my entertainment on a Saturday night. So that's where it all started. Again, I talked about some political views. Pat Wright doesn't like paying taxes. He doesn't like all sorts of things, and he blames Trudeau and stuff like that. And I give him valid counterpoints, and he just gets really angry and he shuts me down, or tries to shut me down, shut me up. He doesn't like to hear anything that's against his point of view, basically. And that's where it all started.
Do you feel that there's been any times where it's escalated way too far beyond the limits? And do you think it's gone on too long, where maybe eventually the hatch should be buried and peace should be made?
No, the hatchet will never be buried, because I will always have a problem with the fact that they sell merchandise to fans and exploit this whole wrestling fantasy thing that they have to their financial advantage. I don't agree with it, and it's insulting. And I'm not even a wrestler. I can't even start to believe. I can't even think about how some of the wrestlers must feel to see these guys come to their shows and push merchandise on fans like that with the deception that they're actual wrestlers. So no, the hatchet won't be. If you want to say bury the hatchet will be buried once Pat Wright accepts the fact that he's not a wrestler and that he's just a fan, and that, you know, but I really don't believe there's gonna be a day like that. Once again, he's got an enabler, Dave Awesome, who's gonna just keep telling him he's the greatest. A lot of the actual wrestlers just sort of look the other way, and let this thing keep going. I think it's very damaging, just not to casual fans who come to the show, but to Pat Wright himself. Somebody needs to sit him down and just tell him the facts. Dude, you need to get out, get a real job and a real life, not just live in this delusional fantasy.
Long, questionable, I guess, on his part, him claiming that apparently he, besides his usual claim that he is a wrestler, but also his father was a wrestler,
right?
And all that. Have you ever seen like any proof of that? Has he ever shown you any proof, provided proof, or?
No, of course not. He won't give me proof, and I've done thorough searches of all the databases of places that he's lived, Powell River on the island, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of trail that implies that. I do believe though that he was involved in wrestling somehow, but really there's no clear indication of. I'm beginning to think that he's a lot like his dad. You know, that they had this perception they were wrestlers or big time wrestlers, but really, how much further did you go outside of wrestling in a barn in Pemberton?
Reaction and your opinion on the whole incident that happened at the Emperor Wars night where Pat Wright pushed you. What's your?
And he pushed a wall. Yes. Well, we had just won feud of the year. Should have been feud of the decade, because I don't think anybody's going to get any close to what we did. Of course, being respectful and everything else, I stood up. I went over there to get my award and also shake the hand of Pat Wright, in which point he accosted me and he went to the bathroom and pounded into a wall a bit. He was very angry. It was really funny though, because for the next few months he would come to me at shows with his hand out and he would say, "The feud is over now, the feud is over. Let's finish it now." And I thought, well, Jesus, I tried to do that back in November, December of last year, and you had nothing to do with it. Now you want to finish it. Well, what has changed your mind now? Come on. And at that point, I was just pissed off, and I refused to shake his hand because, you know what? He's acting like a little child.
Okay, what is your number one problem with Pat Wright?
Well, a lot of you out there might not know about fantasy wrestling, so let's just put that aside for now, and let's talk about the game of dodgeball. Everybody knows about dodgeball. We all did it in middle school. You throw the ball and you hit somebody and they're out. Well, let's pretend, instead of fantasy wrestling, we all got together here in Vancouver, this area, and did a dodgeball team. And, you know, it's just one of those pickup games. We played dodgeball. And along comes Pat Wright, and he says to everybody on the team, "Hey guys, I'm Pat Wright, and I know everything about dodgeball. I'm the greatest dodgeball player, and I'm practicing to be a professional dodgeball player. I know about the history, I know about the rules, and I want to play too." And we say to Pat Wright, "Okay, Pat Wright, you can come on in and play dodgeball with us." Well, we start playing dodgeball, and it's very apparent from the very start that Pat Riot keeps getting hit by the ball over and over again more than anyone else. He keeps getting hit. Bam! He keeps getting hit. Bam! 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 And Pat Riot, he's had enough. He gets very angry and he says, "Stop! Enough!" Now, there's two ways Pat Riot can go at this point. He could say, "You know what, guys, I'm really sorry. I don't really know a lot about dodgeball. I'm humbly requesting that I continue and train more, and one day I may become a good dodgeball player." Or he can do what Pat Riot has done in fantasy wrestling and say, "You guys all suck. You're not playing by the rules. You're all bullies." And he'll say, "I quit." And we're all sitting there like, what? What do we do? We're playing by the rules, Pat Riot. So he'll take off for a few months and then he'll come back and he'll do the very same thing. Wash, rinse, and repeat. "I'm Pat Riot. I know everything about dodgeball. All you guys are going down. I'm going to beat you all because not only am I the greatest dodgeball player now, but I have grown up with the professional ball players all of my life, and I know everything that there is about dodgeball, and this will continue on and 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 on." And that is the problem with Pat Riot.
I've tried to end this feud on numerous occasions already. On March 1st of this year, 2019, at Pacific Pro Wrestling in Abbotsford, I actually shook Ross's hand and told him the feud was over. However, some ways, sometimes, somehow, some people think it's still on. I don't want it to be on. It's been on for far too long. I was still in Pemberton when the feud started. Now, if it started online or if it started in a car on the way back from a show at one time, I'm not sure. I don't know how it exactly got started anymore. It's been too long, and too many words have been said back and forth, insults.
This is the bounty, right? This is you. I said I was good. This was one match, and everything is over. I meant it. JJ Bounty. Look, the piece of fucking shit you will always be in life.
And it's classic Pat Riot, sitting there with a glum look on his face for 9 minutes long going, "Millenium Pro." You know, we go into fantasy wrestling to escape the realities of the world. We go in there, we roast everybody like it's Comedy Central every single day of the week. We put each other down. We destroy each other psychologically because that's the rule. Those are the rules of the game. But then you get Pat Riot back, Millenium Pro. And he's bringing up stuff like there's sexuality in wrestling and the fact that there isn't apparently sexuality in wrestling, even though Pat Riot, the historian, should know that wrestling started 2,000 years ago with two naked men crawling all over each other for many hours at a time. That's where wrestling started. And nobody on the planet Earth can tell you that there's not sexuality in wrestling even today. That's the most sexual thing you can do. Running around in basically your underwear bathing suit, beating the other guy? Come on. Jeez Louise. Now, Pat Riot, as always, carrying in the real world into this fantasy world. I've always played by the rules. I've only used what is brought into fantasy wrestling. And that's a big chagrin with a lot of you out there because I'll only use it. If you bring something into M-Pro, I am going to make sure it's destroyed and blown up and everything else. And you brought in a whole bunch of things. You call me by my non-theatrical name. And you brought up a whole bunch of examples. Well, actually, one main example. You gave this apology that this
this youth with an intellectual challenge is not related to me. He's not family. But as usual, Pat Riot, you've totally missed the point on this. You see, it doesn't matter if I have a family member who's intellectually challenged or not. I love that kid more than my own children at times. And he is very special to me, and I will consider him part of my family. So your apology means nothing to me, Pat Riot. Who cares if he's related to me? I think you know very well that you knew that boy wasn't related to me. You thought that was kind of funny when you put in your promo that he was a family member. You thought that was a joke or something, that I would be offended that there would be somebody with an intellectual challenge part of my family. That's disgusting, Pat Riot. Now this guy that Pat Riot talking about, I drive him to wrestling shows ever so often, and a few years ago I used to drive Pat Riot all around to wrestling shows too when he came down from Pemberton. Now Pat Riot likes to say that I'm a big rich prick and I don't care about anybody, especially him. But, you know, I used to spend hundreds of dollars in gas driving him around the wrestling shows for free. I never asked him for any. Oh, by the way, I was driving a car. That was my 2004 Pontiac Sunfire with 300,000 kilometers on it. Yeah, that sounds like a real rich thing to do, right? Anyway, I'm Pat Riot sitting in the back seat. I go pick up this kid from his house. And Pat Riot knew that. Pat Riot's being explained the whole situation. Yeah, he thinks it's funny to make a really bad joke about it. This guy is sitting in the back seat, and the first time Pat Riot met this kid, Pat Riot told this kid that he was a big-time wrestler, and he was going to be a big star soon. He was training at All-Star Wrestling. Of course, as any teenager who loves wrestling would do, this kid fawned over Pat Riot, and I'd sit here driving them to shows and stuff and listening to them chatter in the back. Pat Riot going on and how he's so important in the wrestling world and how everybody respects him, and he's the foundation of independent wrestling here in the West Coast. And so one day this kid makes a little comment that Pat Riot was very offended about, you know, the whole Velvet McIntyre, Drew McIntyre thing. And as you saw on Monday in Pat Riot's video where he turns up the dial to 100 suddenly, he did this in the backseat of my car. He put down this kid, called him stupid, said he was a joke, said he needs to go and study wrestling like himself, who a real wrestling star. So, how do you think I'm going to react to that? Do you think I want to associate myself with somebody who puts down other people, especially people with intellectual challenges like that? No, not at all. I stopped driving Pat Riot around the shows, and then he started making comments that I'm a rich prick and everything. Then he started talking to other people like the guy over Brent Thompson in Chilliwack and telling Brent Thompson to go screw off because nobody's going to give him a ride. I drive all the way out there to pick up Brent Thompson, and I'm called a rich, stuck-up asshole. Pat Riot, you need to really get an attitude adjustment in life. We saw just this Monday what happens to you, your dark side. And frankly, we can't have this in Millenium Pro. You have no concept of reality and fantasy. You take fantasy into the real world and think you're the encyclopedia of wrestling and that you are the future of all-star wrestling.
Threats of real fights happening, which never have, thank goodness. You know, I actually like the guy. I think he's a good guy. Just sometimes his attitudes about certain issues and certain things in wrestling, they get to me. And I'm guessing that's how it got born. I'm not sure. I do know in the vehicle on the way home after, I think it was an ECCW show, after he was dropping me off at a SkyTrain station, during the ride home, the youngster he was with said something. We were talking old school wrestling about Velvet McIntyre, very famous female wrestler who happens to live down here in the Lower Mainland. And I was talking about her, and the first thing this youngster asked up is if it was Drew McIntyre's father. And me, if anyone knows me, knows I'm a fairly decent historian on the business. And I have so much respect for the people who came before the stars of today. So for someone to make an error like that is a breach of wrestling etiquette to me. And if that's where it started, okay, it's understandable. But it's been like 3 years. It's over. Let it be. I want this feud over and done with.
I don't see it as much as Down With Wrestling. Down With Wrestling basically has 8 characters that are all Dave Awesome. They all fight each other and they all get the trophies. Lately, though, that's changed with Rick Peake coming in and doing more of the creative control of that group. With Millenium Pro, I know Steve Corp talks about his mistreatment and stuff, but I can't really tell if it's just his angle and he wants to make that part of his shtick. I think if you're outside of the Vancouver region, it's harder for you to be part of things like the Jackpot Challenge and the M-Pro Wing Nights and things, and that may affect at times your status, but really I haven't paid much attention to it. I'm the #1 champion. I was the first champion. I didn't do that because I'm friends with you and I don't hang and chum around with them all the time. I do it because I do kick-ass promos.
Oh, no. Because Ewan is the controlling person, it has simply been his way of doing things. He gives people a push who he thinks are a push. And people have to remember, a push doesn't always necessarily mean a title either. It doesn't mean a title. Main event push. I mean, main event on any show is a push to me. So anytime you promote yourself, you're going to get a push of some sort.
Yeah, I do, definitely, sometimes, for sure.
Oh, come on. Again, it's Ewan's project. It's his thing. I think he took the best parts of Down With Wrestling and he made his own thing, and that's good. I think Ewan needs to really promote new guys coming in. Old guys get really burnt out and sort of spin their tires a lot, and Ewan needs to sort of nudge them into new directions and really dote on the new guys that come in with their promos and help them become the next stars. Otherwise, no, nothing to say.
Doing a wonderful job, okay? I do think sometimes his rules and guidelines that he set out at the beginning are a little bit lax. But then again, that's his call. That's not mine. That's not my call to make. That's his. However, it's how he likes it. And hey, great.
He is completely fair, except when it comes to a certain someone and things get taken too far sometimes.
Jim Ewan is doing a good job. Sometimes, if Melvie gets a little upset, the Canadian Patriot, and he tends to want to put that fire out. But I don't blame him, Melvin gets a little bit upset too much, and I can see why it shows some favoritism towards Melvin. Sometimes a little bit, nothing much. But overall, Ewan's doing a great job. I see no complaints, really. He's got lots of character, he's got lots of good ideas. He's open to suggestions. I've sent many suggestions. He's very open to them. So he's doing a good job. He just needs to not placate to some of these guys like Melvin Barry and Ogre Knodler, especially Ogre Knodler. Knodler, however you say his name. Yeah, one word to describe him, party pooper.
Now with Millenium Pro, it's had its, it has its moments where it gets chaotic around here, with a lot of things. People bickering back and forth, or complaining about this storyline, oh, they should have won, the other person should have lost, why is this person even winning in the first place, this person is in kind of promos, why this, why that. With all this drama and all the build up of all this, how much of this like gets to a point where your stress level goes to like through the roof? And has there ever been a time where it's gone so much out of control? Has there ever been a moment where he's like, you know what, maybe screw this, it might be time to shut it down? And if you did come to the decision, what brought you back to redecide the decision?
Right. Well, it's never been a choice ever to shut it down. I mean, I love wrestling that much where I need enough of it in my life that I can. But yeah, there's been quite a lot of complaints about, people thinking I may favor others, and oh, this guy did a promo, but sorry, let me rewind. This guy didn't do a promo, but I did, and that guy still won for some reason. So da. Well, welcome to the world of wrestling, guys. It's just like a match, an actual wrestling match. Somebody won because of such and such. Things happen all the time. Like, welcome to wrestling.
So at this moment in time, the Canadian Patriot Pat Riot has been suspended. Death Dealer Bane of the COD has been suspended. I am tired of the shit going on here in Millenium Pro. And I'm wanting each and every one of you to cut the shit. If we have a problem that we cannot deal with me, or with you guys, then you come and talk to me. I'm tired of coming on Millenium Pro and seeing that if I didn't make a decision properly, or something didn't happen properly, that we decide to make it into a post and then post it, and then 300 people make comments. We see 300 comments. Cut the shit. Everybody. I want everybody to realize this is entertainment. This is the same shit that you watch with WWE and the local stuff. The only thing about Millenium Pro that's different is you don't get any matches. Any physical wrestling matches. If you think what's really bad is this, you should see what behind the scenes of WWE is like. I bet it's worse. And don't think for a second that nothing happens in the local stuff. I'm not here trying to come on and trying to be tough and trying to be G.I. Joe right now. I'm telling you that I love everybody in this group, but we need to cut the shit. We are all wrestling fans, and we all get this. I want nobody talking to anybody shoot in a personal matter about anything to do with their families, anything to do with themselves, making accusations that somebody is a sexual predator. That is something that I heard on this page. Somebody was called a cunt on this page, and I don't want to hear it from anybody. We are adults. Are we not? I have not made the best decisions here in Millenium Pro. I admit that right now. And there are times where I need a swift kick right in the ass. But that's what I got you guys for. And when I have to come on Millenium Pro and people are having a disagreement, and then I have to see comment threads full of 200, 300, whatever comments, that, you know what that tells me? That tells me that people are not giving a shit here in Millenium Pro. You have me that you can talk to. You can message me. Have you not seen on WWE where somebody has a problem, they go to the boss. They knock on General Manager Vince McMahon or Shane McMahon's office. They go, "Hello, need to talk to you." Have we not seen the backstage segments where they go and talk to the boss personally? "I've had a problem with such and such. I need to deal with such and such. And I'll take care of it for you."
You can't always get what you want. So that's why I always say, if you do a promo in Millenium Pro, you will get the better rewards out of it. We have people that do amazing promos here in Millenium Pro. However, we don't all have the technology that you do in Millenium Pro to do these promos. So some of us might just have the camera and be, you know, looking at ourselves and doing whatever. What I like about the promos in Millenium Pro is the visual. I like the location of where people do them and what they say. And that's usually what a lot of promos are. Mostly, you see, is what they say. There was just a thing, I'll give you a great example of, if I may use her name, Brandy Rhodes in AEW, and it was on the Road to All Out thing. AEW coming, by the way, August 31st. I'm sure you'll not know that by the time this airs, but whatever. Or it'll be come and gone, but still. But all the camera did was just look at her. You know, she didn't have any fancy visuals. She didn't have any fancy lighting. She didn't have any fancy this and this. It was just simply a black screen behind her, and she gave one of the best promos out there. So, you know, talking about the Cody Rhodes and Shawn Spears situation. So, I mean, it's really that. If you do the promos, I guarantee you there are the benefits, but we can't have the same people winning all the time, because then it's going to get boring. It's going to get, people are going, okay, this isn't fair, da da da. And yes, you should be doing promos in Millenium Pro. That's absolutely true. Those who are not doing any, you know, shouldn't really be getting rewarded. That is true, you know, fair enough. But those who do, they get the benefits. More benefits, for sure.
Okay, so as you know, David, I've had promos with and rivalries with just about everybody in Millenium Pro and Down with Wrestling, and as you know, sometimes I get matched up with Pat Riot, and Pat Riot really takes things personally. He got offended with me because this was not part of fantasy wrestling, but he got offended with some of my political views, and he called me some names, I called him some names. Anyway, what happened next was he became very offended with anything I did with promos. Now, I did a promo last year that was about a shower, and this comes from a promo we started out down in the States, in the southern part of the States. I did a promo as, was I JJ Bounty? No, I think I did this new character with a paper bag over my head, and I called myself the False Prophet, and I called out Pat Royt. Now, his name was Pat Royt down in the States. I don't know why. The guy who ran the fantasy wrestling group down there called him Pat Royt, and he said, well, I think you two boys up there in Canada need to have a match together. I thought, oh, Jesus. All right, let's do it. And what I did was I decided to do a storyline where I discovered my opponent, my adversary, Pat Royt, was just like myself, actually. Once we disrobed and took a shower after our match, it was purely innocent, though. There was no insinuations of anything at all. And it was a hot, southern, balmy night, and you know, we discovered that we were just two men taking a shower together. And anyway, that didn't go over very well. Pat Wright was out of there faster than anything. He didn't want to continue with the storyline. He thought that was totally, and the guy down there who ran the fantasy wrestling group was like, "Oh my God, what are you talking about? You can't do this stuff in wrestling." I go, "What? What are you talking about? I'm being creative. I thought wrestling was whatever I wanted to do, and I'm trying to make a message here." Anyway, so Pat Wright went back to Canada, and the storyline fell apart because he wasn't going to address it, and it was like, what's going on with this taking a shower? God, I've never heard this stuff before. So he went back to Millenium Pro, and I went back to Millenium Pro, and a few months later, I decided, Ewan matched us up again. So it was Pat Wright versus JJ Bounty, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm gonna finish the storyline, because as I said earlier, I love endings to stories. I don't like just starting things. I want to know how things go. So I said, I'm going to do the shower storyline again. And so I cut a few cool promos, as you'll probably intersperse in this documentary. And then Pat Riot crushed a candy bar and called me crap coconut. Okay. And then there was this promo a little later where he just appeared. He was sort of shooting the straight up. He said, you know, I'm really upset because there was something happened to me when I was a whole lot younger in a shower, and it traumatizes me. And he implied that I knew this and I exploited it, even though in the video he said that nobody had known about this before. You know, I could use this as an out with just about anything. You know, I could be traumatized by this chair. I could be traumatized by alcohol. I could be traumatized by anything. And he used that against me and said that, you know, I can't, you know, we can't go forward with this because of the trauma involved with a shower. Even though his roommate at the time, who was that? Johnny Dean was always doing promos in a shower. It didn't seem to bother him about that. It seemed to bother the fact that JJ Bounty was implying. So I dropped the shower thing. I said, okay, fine. I did another promo in a sex toy shop just to sort of change topics. And I think we managed to creak past the ending and get to the end of everything, and it was fine at the time. Anyway.
The most of what has bothered me the most about the fantasy wrestling, and that's not just including M-Pro, that's also including DWW too, was the issue of me being accused of drugs. I despise drugs. I despise the fact that people like to resonate the fact that marijuana is legal. I despise it. I lost a second oldest brother in 1988 to drug use. I lost a cousin in 92. Why? Because I lived in Pemberton for 17 years. Everyone associates drugs with the music festival. That's not me. I worked during those times. Why? Because that's what I was there to do. It's the only thing in Pemberton to do anyway. Sleep, work, eat, go back to sleep again. The drugs issue is huge for me. I've never done them. I never will do them. Nobody has enough money to make me want to do any sort of drugs in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I was forced out a few times by Millennium Pro, and GMU wasn't too happy with me because I was suspending people on the side. I would suspend Jamie Harry, I would suspend so-and-so, I'd suspend Hogan, and Ewan fired me a couple times actually from Millennium Pro, and I actually quit one time over it. I never came back until I was asked to come back, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'll come back, I'll cause trouble again. Thanks for bringing me back. But yeah, it's like, I never really wanted to quit, but I was forced out by you. And like, well, who does that? I'm like, you're one of your top contributors, and you forced me out? I don't know. Another reason I was quit is Ogre. Like, who is this guy? He's been cutting promos for over 2 years, and we still don't know anything about him. He sits there talking about shining up belts and being a nightmare to people. Like, I don't know. Who is this guy? We know nothing about him. Like, I'm tired of seeing his promos on here. Do something else. And his brother Vincent, oh, don't get me started on him. I don't know. It's nothing's really wanted to force me out, but a few things have upset me, and the UN has actually fired me a couple of times. Like, oh man, but I'm the vice president of Millennium Pro. So everything comes around, you know. I'm back and I'm in charge in some capacity.
So was has there ever been at all like any decision you made regarding anything with M-Pro or anything where one decision after the fact you think about like you kind of like almost regret and kick yourself in the butt for, like just anything like maybe I should have went in this direction with this, went in this direction with that, or maybe I should have handled this a little better?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I'm sure there was some sort of situation like that. But that's wrestling. Like, it can't be perfect. That's the thing. Is you know, as I say, welcome to wrestling. If you want to be the world champion 24 hours a day, you're in the wrong place. You know, so roll with the punches, guys. And I'm telling you, this is the place to be. The benefits will be there for you, and I'm sure there are things that I've needed to do better or made a decision where I went, you know, probably shouldn't have, but, you know, comes with the territory. We're not all perfect.
Anything you would change about M-Pro? And is there anything you would like keep about? Like, say if it was one of those things, if you had a chance to change anything, is there anything you would change?
I think it's fine the way it is. I love the system we have. I'd like to get more. Nothing I'd like to change, but stuff I'd like to see more of. I'd like to see people doing more promos. I'd like to see our talent increase, the roster increase. We do have a couple of new members now, but I'd like to see more. You know, it'll come over time, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, as far as anything to change, not really. I think we're in a good system.
I really want to be women's champion in M-Pro again. I know I messed up in the past, but others messed up in the past too. It wasn't just me. And I really want to be women's champion again.
Do you feel possibly perhaps was your last reign there, maybe there was controversy or...
Complete and total controversy.
Do you feel maybe it could have lasted longer, or...
Definitely.
Maybe it could have been the issues that were at hand there could have been maybe treated and resolved a little better?
Way better, yes.
Well, in the summer months, you know, I just saw just too much. There's too many shows. There was like you can't keep up. That when people just they stopped posting promos because they can't keep up. So I messaged GMU and I said, you got to cut these shows out. Keep it to once a week. Keep it to a pay-per-view. And within an hour, he canceled Tuesday night show, and all of a sudden, I'm the vice president of Millennium Pro. That was just the major thing I would have changed. Is less is more. You know, like, you start putting too many things on there, it fails. You have that much content to read. It's like I can't sit there and read 10 pages of words. It's just not going to happen. Like 3 times a week, or God knows how many shows there are at one point. Keep it to 1 show a week. That's all you need. Keep it to 1 pay-per-view a month or every 2 months. You know, like sometimes just needs to be slowed down a bit. There's too much going on. That was the one major complaint I would have about Millenium Pro, and that's going to be fixed for the fall season. I can assure you that as the vice president of Millenium Pro. But now I know they're in the works as a developmental program, I believe, headed up by Adam McLean, is it? I believe he's going to be heading up the developmental program, and the number 1 guy to send down there is Ogre Knodler. That's another thing I changed. That guy needs to get off the main roster, Ogre Knodler. He's got to go down developmental. He's got to be opening match. He's got to retool himself. This guy is just putting out the same crap every time. He needs to start the bottom of the ladder again, in my opinion. As vice president, I'm going to see to that he gets sent down to the minor leagues. I want to see this guy actually work his way back to the main show because he doesn't deserve to be there. Especially after canceling Melvin Barry's go-away party and not inviting myself, Mike, even yourself, or even Dave Awesome, Not So Awesome, wasn't invited. Like, come on, Ogre Knodler. You can't do stuff like that. There's consequences, and you're going to find out real soon. You're heading down to the minor leagues. But yeah, that's the one thing I change. Yeah, less shows and send Ogre down to developmental. He needs to go there.
I think getting fresh minds in there with what we did this year with the guest GM is essential. I think Ewan gets overworked and he gets tired and he gets into sort of routines with a lot of his stuff. I like that. I'm not proposing that I come back, but I know there's other guys that'll step up. Really though, I can't think much. I think he just needs to keep promoting MPro and getting new talent. I mean, it's really important to get new talent in, as we are getting new talent in this year, and that's great. I know, David, you know this too, that I bitch about the YouTube thing. He needs to get YouTube going and other social media platforms and Twitter and stuff like that if he really wants to break out. But Ewan seems content to be just a little group of people, and that's fine. If he wants to go that way, that's fine. He's the owner, he's the GM, he's the CEO, whatever. If he just wants to stay little, that's fine.
I'm not sure I would change a whole lot about it. Simply because the ground rules for MPro have already been set. So there isn't much I would change. I do believe that MPro is a much edgier product than what DWW is. Because DWW, as much as I love it over there too, is also more family-based. So with that being said, MPro does have the edgier content. Kind of like the Attitude Era of Monday Night Raw, whereas DWW is WCW, the family content.
What do you want to accomplish with like Millenium Pro? Like, what kind of goals you have like with MPro just as an entity and product? Like, what's your goals on what you're trying to succeed here with?
The ultimate goal is just to have like a nice fun place for wrestling for people to enjoy. I'd love it if it could be an actual, not necessarily a thing I'd make money from, but maybe have it. Well, I guess maybe make money, but maybe have it as a job. Just just a fun place for people to come and enjoy wrestling. The goals with it per se, I don't know as of yet. But I'd love it to kind of take off and maybe have more exposure outside of where we are now, and see where the wind goes, I guess. See where the wind takes us.
The end game is done. The end game happened in May when I was guest GM. I'm a firm believer that stories, good stories, have a beginning, middle, end. We're always hooked on nostalgia these days, and we always try to keep doing things and rebooting things and bringing things back. And really what I did in May with the guest GM storyline was sort of the end of the JJ Bounty era.
Watching this recording, I am dead. Something befell me before the end of my month as guest GM.
So I planned that very carefully to make sure that there was a final chapter to everything. I think a lot of times people get stuck in characters and promos, and they just keep going and going and going and going and going, and they don't see an end. And I think before you start a story or a character, you always have in mind the ending to the character as well. That's what makes good storytelling.
Hey, I've already accomplished one big dream. I was the Millenium Pro champion. And hey, I love being a champion. I don't mind being in main event feuds. See, to me, having a title sometimes doesn't always make you who you are.
The Boss Ross era. Wow. Talk about a ratings win. DWW couldn't even match that month ever. I don't think if you added up all the last 2 years of DWW ratings, it would match that 1 month that Boss Ross ran Millenium Pro. And wow, the celebrities that came on board, it became viral. You had Enzo Amore telling Ogre Nodler, whatever his name is, to get off the damn couch, cut a promo. Like, my God, you had Vince Russo calling out Melvin Barry. Like, what kind of a name is Melvin Barry? It's got to be a gimmick name, he said. Like, he just called out Melvin Barry, called out Dave Awesome. Gillberg called out Pat Riot. Like, where else would you see this kind of action? It was something to be seen, and people were buzzing on Millenium Pro over the Boss Ross era. You didn't know what was going to happen next. It was the pinnacle of fantasy wrestling, period. It can never be matched.
The general manager just earlier in the year, it was known as the Boss Ross era.
Very controversial.
Very controversial, yeah. You had everything. It was literally big time production stuff. You had guest spots from various wrestlers.
That's right, yeah.
And how long did it take you to pretty much plan all this and get everyone that is involved. And were you happy with how the whole thing came off?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I had planned it for about 6 months since Ewan had told me back in November or December that I was going to do the GM, and I thought, man, what could I do that really jolts us out of this fantasy world and makes us think we're in the reality of an actual wrestling business.
I don't know. Guys, just turn off the camera for a minute, okay? I got a whole bunch of private calls coming through. I got like 18 chairs and 200 tables to set up in there in the arena. And I'm still here. So
and I thought, I saw Gillberg was available for to shoot a promo.
What's up, Pat? Right? Understand that you have a title bout that you want to win the daggone championship of the Pro Fantasy Wrestling Group. Is that true? Well, man, you need some proper motivation here, baby. That's why they got the Bergman. They got the Bergman here to baby, get you so psyched up that you just don't know what you're going to do. Look, you gotta do the right promos. Like you gotta go up there and say, let me tell you something, brother. I'm gonna kick some booty. That's right. Let's get some booty. And look, you gotta train. Hang and bang, hang and bang, hang and bang. And remember, brother, do what the Gillberg does. Spear them. And then you know what it is? It's up, 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 up. That's right, baby. You're the jackhammer, and all it does is go boom, down, and then it's the 1, 2, 3. So, brother, you keep it going, man. Let me tell you, because me and Ross, we're going to be your motivational speaker, and you're going to win this title. You hear me? You're going for it, brother. Do it, brother. Do it, brother. Do it, brother.
So I reached out to Gillberg and Casey Spinelli.
Yeah, okay, hold on a second. I think the conference call's coming through. Ross, my friend. I know I'm in the middle of getting my hair did, Ross, but I need you to know something. I am 2 seconds away from booking my own jet down there. I heard Jordana poisoned Aaron Schulte. Aaron Schulte, the one woman who took care of this tummy for years. Nobody does that to Schulte. Nobody does that to Schulte. I won't stand by for that. And Jordana knows. Jordana knows me. And she knows I won't stand for anybody messing with my crew. And Schulte, she's a part of this crew. I'm Casey 2 belts. She was Schulte 3 belts. The Pro Women's Championship, the D-Dub-Dub Women's Championship, and the D-Dub-Dub People's Championship, which you don't win unless you're a champion for the people. And that's what Schulte is. And how dare Jordana, how dare she try to poison her? You know what? Don't even worry about it. Ross, you're the best GM I've ever had to deal with, ever seen in that position. And you know what? I think it's time we hug it on out. So you know what? Call her up. Tell Jordana I'm coming. Book the flight. It is done, dealt with. Boom. I'm getting a direct flight right now to be.
Jordana, I just want you to know that I take this very personally. And as you can see, I'm a woman of my word, and I'm coming there to show you respect. No, I'm going there to actually put a woman in her place. She tried to poison my friend. Yeah, poison her. I know. Crazy, eh? Absolutely just ridiculous. I can't believe some people would even act like that or do like that. Yeah, I just, wait. You wait now. So I'm just getting on to the plane. Hi there, how are you? Good, thank you. You ready, Jordana? Because I'm coming. Should I just send that? Is that the reply you're looking for? I mean, snipers? Listen, I wouldn't be scared of you at an all-you-can-eat buffet. I'm not scared of you where I reign supreme. If you want to call me out, call me out, because trust me, there ain't nobody stupid enough to want to mess with this. So, honey, there must be something wrong with you. But if you want to call me out, that's fine. I'll see you in the ring. Heck, we can make it a handicap match. Why don't you bring your little friend Jordan you're trying to stand up for? Do you know she tried to poison somebody? These are the people you align yourself with. These are your friends. You're going to give her your life for hers? I don't think that's a smart idea. But if you want it, you got it. 2 scoops, all up on that.
I thought, yeah, it'd be great if Casey Spinelli came on, and she's such a huge women's wrestler out east. And so, okay, I got these 2 guys. And then the first week I was guest GM. Of course, I interspersed their promos with what I was doing as guest GM, and that was a huge hit. And I thought, oh geez, this is only the first week of May. I got to keep going. There has to be it has to build up to something better. And I just used the 2 assets that I was planning on. So I did on the second week. I had Enzo come on.
Got this. Smack talking Skywalker. Microphone lightsaber for her. Well, what do we got over here? A carbohydrate? A carbohydrate? Olga, you lazy son of a bitch. Get up off that love seat with your brother Vincent the Viking, that bitch-made motherfucker. And I gotta tell you, all right, the best boss is Millenium Pro GM Ross. So, when he speaks, you listen. Shut your mouths. Open your eyes, open your ears, look, listen, and learn something, all right? Hey, so, Dave awesome, you're Dave not so fucking awesome, all right? Tooting your own fucking horn. Nobody's tooting that horn, you piece of shit. I gotta tell you, all right? I know what I know, and that's all I know. And what I know is you ain't got shit on GM Ross, okay? And this is a fact like the back of a Snapple cap, okay? Smart asses, all right? You think you're fucking smart, all right? If you was wise, all right, and not so Frito-Lay, okay? I'm wise, no Frito-Lay, okay? You guys fucking Frito-Lay on that fucking couch all day. Don't make no goddamn videos. Get up off your ass, make some videos!
And Road Warrior Animal.
WWE Hall of Famer from the Legion of Doom, Road Warrior Animal here. And I think you need to sign exclusively with Millenium Pro. GM Ross is the greatest boss you'll ever have. The halfway house stable of Jord Taylor, Scoochie, Jordana, Beef Boy, and Wing Hog will steamroll Dave Armstrong and DWW. Oh, what a rush.
I had Cory Graves.
Taylor, what's going on? It's Cory Graves. I regret to inform you that despite any advice I can give you, or anybody else on the planet for that matter, you will never dress as dapperly as I do. It's not what you wear, it's how you wear it. So stop listening to Sleazy Steve's terrible fashion advice. And Millenium Pro is still the best league on the planet. And Boss Ross, well, yeah, that guy, he's the greatest.
Who else?
What's going on, Joe? Or should I say, Gangsta Joe? What's going on, brother? WWE Hall of Famer, Bam, OG. Man, believe me, OG. The real Godfather. What's going on, bro, man? I see Boss Ross has shouted out to me. He wanted me to run a little bit of wisdom and knowledge down to you, bro. And first of all, you need to start getting along with your new wrestling tag team partner, Kingpin J, bro. I had a lot of partners I didn't like, but I always got along with them in the ring. And, you need to start listening to Millenium Pro's Boss Ross, man. He knows he got a lot of knowledge in that noggin of him. And you need to forget about Dave Awesome, man. I've known a lot of Awesomes, man. None of them any good. Man, they're all dirty players. Well, it ain't bad being a dirty player, but you know what I'm saying. It is what it is. Anyway, brother, keep doing your thing, Gangsta Joe. Godfather out. Peace.
Yo, Ewan Clemens, bro, of Millenium Pro Wrestling. That's you, right, bro, Mr. Clemens? Well, this is Vince Russo, bro. And I am here to tell you, bro, in the history of GMs, bro, including the computer on Raw, In the history of GMs, there has never been a GM of the magnitude of Mr. Ross Renaud. That's right, bro. Ross Renaud, bro, the greatest GM, guest GM in the history of sports entertainment, bro. And you were lucky. You were lucky to have Ross as a guest GM because, bro, he brought back beautiful, beautiful, beautiful traces of the Vince Russo Attitude Era that hasn't been seen in 20 years. Mr. Clemens, do you understand? Why was this guy a guest GM? He should be hired on a full-time basis. And I also want to talk about his critics, bro. Melvin Berry, bro, that's got to be a kayfabe name. No parents name their kids Melvin Berry. Not one. I guarantee you not one. But Mr. Melvin Berry and David Awesome, another gimmick name. The two biggest critics of Ross Renaud. Let me ask you a question, bro. Who did you guys ever beat? Who did you guys ever beat? I'll tell you who. Nobody, bro, especially if Ross has the book. Because all the crap you talked about Ross, if he has the book, bro, you are going to be jobbing till your 95th birthday. So, Mr. Clemens, hire Ross full-time. Forget this guest nonsense, bro. This guy needs to be a permanent fixture on Millennium Pro Wrestling. That's Vince Russo telling you that, bro.
Anyway, you probably wouldn't know much of what I was going to say, but yo, GM Ross, he's the new guest boss of Millennium Pro Fantasy Wrestling. Dude, I like real wrestling. I don't know about fantasy unless it would be with like Kelly or something like that, an apartment fantasy wrestling. But either way, you dudes, owner Ewan, is that Ewan, Evan? What do you need? Some convincing that GM Ross will do to me? Dude, I can't convince you a shit right now. I don't even know what you really want me to say. What is your name? No, I'm fucking with you guys. Good luck with whatever the fuck.
A bunch of people, and then some smart ass on M-Pro said, "Oh guys, I figured it out. You know, Boss Ross pays these wrestlers to do promos with them? This is all just fake." I go, "Oh yes, that's it. I was totally going for that. I wanted somebody to call me out and say that I actually pay people to get results." The fantasy with fantasy wrestling is the fact that they expect all this stuff to just happen. And they, you know, Dave Awesome, he sits there on his live chats and he says, "Well, you know, I got this guy down in the States. He's a big wrestler, and this guy and this guy." And he doesn't give these guys a bloody cent. These guys are all busting their asses to entertain us and get to the next level. I guess that would be WWE or something, and make a living out of this. And yet we've got these fans expecting nothing from them. No financial gain to that, please, in the world of fantasy wrestling. So being called out for that, it was a very proud moment for myself. And I thought, I keep this going. And by the end of the month, I had Bret Hart give Pat Riot the belt.
This is Bret the Hitman Hart, and I got a very special congratulatory shout out from Melvin Berry. And this is coming courtesy of Boss Ross and Ewan, who both want to congratulate you on the big title win. You won the Millennium Pro World Championship belt just a few days ago, defeating Steve Hardboard, who had a lot, but he just didn't have enough to pull it off. So I want to congratulate you, Melvin, on a job well done. And just remember now that you're a champion, that you are in life the excellence of execution. You are the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, and don't ever change.
And I thought, this is going to humble Pat Riot, and he's going to make sort of jolt him out of the fact that his head is always in the land of delusion. But of course, Pat Riot said that he personally called Bret Hart and thanked him after he got the message. And I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Saying is this, which has been well documented online, all that it's with not only within the wrestling community, it's known, and also fantasy wrestling community is you and Jordana, obviously. Obviously, you guys have had strains on your relationship. Was any of those strains brought on by anything related to beyond like fantasy wrestling, or any issues caused by that? Like, you've had your issues with, obviously, with Ross and stuff like that. You're a very passionate person, stuff like that. Has any of that stuff, has fantasy wrestling was the cause of any kind of dissension with you two guys at all?
Stuff with Even Stevens, as she portrays herself on, as isn't really the issue. Sometimes the lines have gotten crossed there, and yes, it did put a strain on our relationship to the point where we're actually not together right now. Is she still a wonderful friend? Absolutely. She always will be. A very wonderful friend. Such as everyone else. You and you. Anyone else. Anybody else is always just a wonderful friend. And sometimes, yes, the lines get crossed and friends argue. Have you ever seen two brothers who didn't have a fight once in a while? It happens. The relationship is a very amicable one and very friendly. Yes, we do argue from time to time. It happens. But did some of the issues cause the strains? Yes, to a point. There were times where, again, as I said, threats of physical violence actually happening caused a bit of a rift. But yeah, it happened.
I've overreacted to stuff too. I know I have. But so has he. And guess who's been the one that has to calm him down all the time? We're looking at her. And it got to the point where just couldn't do it anymore. But that's one of the reasons, 100% yes, for sure. However, I want to make this clear to everybody. I love Melvin, okay? Just because we're not whatever doesn't mean I don't love him. I'm always going to be there for him, and he knows that.
I've known them both offline, in the real world, and I don't use any of that when I argue with them or publicly argue with them on social media. So I'm always very diligent to make sure that what's brought up by me on social media is stuff that we've already been privy to by other people, including Jordana and Melvin. I know Jordana's really a strong person, and she doesn't put up with any nonsense, as well is obvious in the case. So I'm not too worried about her getting drawn into or exploited by these guys that live in the delusional world of fantasy wrestling.
All right, so this is where the magic happens.
Oh, this is it. Yes, come on in for a moment. These are the Millenium Pro studios here. Very small studios. The ring is not in here, by the way. We are out in the lot there. That's where our Emperor Arena is. Nice little building out there. But yeah, this is where it happens. This is the computer right here. This is where we usually host live chats. Rammstein poster for some reason. They're my favorite band, but yeah. Up here is an old school sign of one of our first pay-per-views. Great Millennium Bash, that's right. Was an extremely good pay-per-view. One of the first ones we conducted. And I wanted to get some sort of a banner put up, and had an option to do wrestling, but then they ran out. So I was like, okay, what could I do Millennium? So I thought of a Star Wars kind of thing, and of course, I love Ray because she's, oh my god. So, but yeah, and there you go. Anyways, this is the we have the women's title here. Yes, this actually belongs currently to Ravishing Rachel, but she's not yet got it for some reason. But we'll make sure she does, for sure, unless we happen to have a title change in that time. We'll see. These are the MPro awards. Yeah, for the year-end awards coming up in November. So we got stuff. If you actually look here to the right, you can see our Friday Night Frenzy. There it is, staring you right in the face. That's usually the backdrop logo that Alcoholic uses for his Frenzy intros. And we just got some random wrestling pictures around and stuff like that of some wrestlers on the scene, WWE guys. Yeah, good stuff. Got some wrestling belts. Yeah, it's just, you know, basically where the magic happens. So there you go, guys. Rock and roll.
All right, if you can describe MPro in one word, what will it be?
Absolutely invigorating and exciting and fun.
Tom P.
Prodigy.
Mike McEwen.
Mike McEwen. Rich Prick. Oh, that's 2 words. Rich.
Death Dealer Bane's Ogre.
Love C.
Okay, Adam McLean.
Scotland.
That guy, Danny Deeds.
I'm going to say Machine Gun. Because his patter is like a machine gun.
Josh James.
Misunderstood. From us up here in Canada, at least.
Steve Harvard.
All I can think of is Caddy.
Freebird, Dylan Murphy.
Awesome.
Aaron Schulte.
Keto.
Ravishing Rachel.
Ravishing Rachel. Outspoken.
Dave Awesome.
Borderline personality. That's what, 4 words? No, that's not gonna cut it. Delusional. Well, what is the name of this documentary? Blurring the lines of fantasy and reality, right? What I've learned is there are people entrenched in fantasy in the wrestling fandom who just, there is no concept of reality. They just believe they're wrestlers. They believe that this is all real to them, and yet with me it's about 0.5% of my real life, and I disconnect, and I do my promos, and I interact on the group, but then I disconnect and I go back to being a totally different person. And what I've learned from all this is there are people that really can't differentiate from the two, and they live lives in a delusion and fantasy. And I thought maybe there would be one person, but I've met quite a few now who use this wrestling fantasy as a crutch in their lives, who believe that everything can be overcome by beating somebody in the ring in a hypothetical situation, and they don't look at actually dealing with real life conflicts and stuff. They always fall back on this. And that's what I've learned from being part of groups like this. I've also learned that there's a lot of creativity out there and a lot of interesting fans, and it's not all like that. A lot of cool people out there.
I will say this though. Just going back a little bit, I will say this. All of this is perception on how every one of us as fans views the wrestling business. Views it from WWE to ROH to on down to ECCW and ASW and Defy and other organizations, too many to name here. It's just that much perception on how we as fans view the product. And that's what this is. Perception is reality. And this is fun.